Here, just a wrap. We're going to tie this side. Let me tie it so you can see. See that? So when I tie it back, it's called a wrap top. A wrap top. A wrap top. Alright, so without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So the very first thing we're going to do on this one is already apply our interfacing to our back yoke. You can see that. I already had an interfacing to it. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to just add join our shoulder together. So just make sure you are sewing at the right side of the fabric, you can see. So I'll be joining the first shoulder together. You can see that. Just place your facing. And I'm going to join the shoulder together. Based on our overlap during the cutting, I'll be sewing half of an inch here. If you cannot get the direct half of an inch measurement, you can just use your ruler to just mark it, ruler and chalk. And if you can get half of your inch, so you can just stitch it out. Make sure your hand is straight when you're sewing this part. Make sure your hand is very straight when you're sewing this part. You can see that. You can see this is what the shoulder is going to look like. You can see that. Also the second shoulder, you're going to do exactly the same thing on that second shoulder. But remember we have our different fronts, two fronts. We have the overlap and the underlap. So the next one we're going to apply now is going to be the second one. So just place it right here. You can simply just follow the slant. If you get the slant of the shoulder, you're going to have the right side of the shoulder in the front, while the wrong side will be at the down part. Very simple. So place your yoke on top of it. It's very simple. Just like you want to like sew in a senator outfit that you're going to pipe the neck. It's almost the same thing. Just follow that same process. But I'm trying as much as possible to show you guys what I'm doing here so that you can follow along and sew exactly what I'm doing to get exactly the same result as always. So just stitch the shoulder. You can see. So this is what we're going to have after joining the shoulder. You can see that. Very simple. So what I'm going to do now is just give it a good ironing, and I'm going to like sew the back. So after that, we are going to take out our 1.5 inches for the taping of the neck itself. So after ironing this, you can see you're going to iron it from the inside also. The next thing I'm going to do is to join my back. That's my back facing. I'm going to like join it, and I'm going to join it as half of an inch because I want that outside to be a little bit showing off. Just a simple design. Just make sure your hand is very straight when you're sewing this. It is very important. Your hand has to be very straight. You can see After joining it, you're going to give that back a good ironing. You're going to iron it both from inside and outside, so that it's going to like balance very well. Make sure you're using a steam iron if you're doing it. So the next thing we're going to do now is to cut out our neck so that we can apply our neck taping right here. You can see. So this is what we're going to have after joining the shoulder. So if you align the armhole together, see that, you're going to align this one also. So right here is our overlap. You can see what we're going to have. You can see that it is very simple. So I'm going to take out 1.5 from that edge, so that we're going to like sew our 2.5 inch over it to do the neck pipe. You can see. You can actually cut this if you're using a pattern. You will have cut out the pattern with it, but I'm using a fabric so that you guys can see the process that I will take to actually do it. So I'm marking 1.5 here, and the main reason why I had to do it after joining the shoulder is because if I do it without joining the shoulder, even when I'm doing the sewing, it might be a little bit loose, too loose. So I like to like join my shoulder before taking out my neck measurement or any pipe, any cloth that I'm using that has a pipe. So I'm going to like mark it 1.5 round, and I'm going to mark this side also 1.5. Depending on how wide you want your neck to be, if you want it to be a little bit tighter or shorter, you can go for just 1 inch, and when you like cut out your 2.5 inches and you sew in half of an inch, you're going to have 2 inches overlapping it, so it's going to be firm on your neck, depending on what you want. So I'm going to just chalk this together. You can see, and also this side I'm going to like mark it together. This side is not straight. You possibly might actually have this same problem, but it's normal if it's not straight. All you just have to do is just to chalk it, like just mark it straight. The side that is straight, mark it straight, and the side that is bent, mark it bent. Okay, so this is what we're going to have. You can see that. You can see what we have. It's very important. Okay, so also at the back, because it has to like go round to the next side, I'm going to make a cuff at this edge, just like you're cutting out a your neck. You can see. So at the back, I'm going to cut out the same thing. I'm going to measure my 1.5 at that edge also, and I'm going to just join it together. You can see what we have. So the next thing I'm going to do is just trim it out. I'm just going to trim that side out. Very simple. So after trimming it out, this is what we're going to have so far. You can see it. So the next thing we're going to do is to measure that neck round. You're going to measure the neck round, and you're going to cut out your straight fabric. You're not cutting it in bias. You're going to cut like 4 inches extra to what you measure around on the neck, and I'm going to apply an interfacing to it, so that when I'm adding it to the neck, it's going to be stiff and stand very well. You can see that is going to be like this by the neck. So after cutting this and applying the fusing, you're going to cut out your black that you want to use for the pipe on the neck. So you're going to cut exactly the same length. It is important that you do that. So on this one, we are not going to add an interfacing. Do you understand? So what we're going to do is to like stitch it together and make a turn for our tape, that tiny black tape that you see on the edge. So you can see this, what it's going to look like. I cut the width of the fabric that I use at 2.5 inches, and I also cut the black also at 2.5 inches. But if we turn it, it's going to end up being at 2 inches. So I'm going to like trim the excess out. So after joining it together, this is what we're going to have. You're just going to join it straight down. So this is what it's going to look like after joining it together. So when you turn it, depending on how wide you want your pipe, that tiny pipe to be, on this one it's a little bit very wide, quite too wide, right? So if you take a closer look at this one also, after folding it, we are going to have an excess of half of an inch that we have before. You see that? Depending on what you leave outside will depend on how wide that black pipe is going to be. But on this one, I'm going to trim out from inside. I'm going to trim out from inside so that the pipe we're going to have in the front for the black is going to be very tiny. So here, I already trim it inside. So you're going to trim it inside to have a tiny pipe. So this is what we're going to have now. You see how tiny that is? That's the beauty of the design. So I'm going to iron it and add an hemming gum from inside. So after you apply your hemming gum, this is what it is going to look like. See how smooth that is? So you're going to apply your hemming gum from the inside so that it's going to hold it down firm. And after applying the gum, I'm going to like trim those edges. Okay, so this is what we're going to have after applying the hemming gum and after trimming the edges. It's going to be a very tiny, smooth pipe. You can see. You can see what we have. So the next thing we are going to do now is to attach it to the bodice itself. So at the tip of those places that we cut out before is where we're going to like apply it. So you guys, if you follow me step by step with what I'm doing, you're going to get exactly the same result, as simple as A, B, and C. So just like that, all you have to do is just to stitch it round. Make sure you're not drawing either of the fabric. Just make sure they are balanced and comfortable while you run it straight. You see, that's what that side is going to look like when joining the pipe. Okay, so the last side, just make a double stitch. So this is what the neck is going to look like. So I'm just going to like trim out that excess. can see that's what our neck is going to look like after joining. All you just have to do is just to give it a good ironing and make sure it's balanced very well. You can see that. You can see what we have. So this is what it's going to look like. All we need is just to weave it from the inside, give it a good ironing. I've not ironed it right here, so all we just have to do is just to do the ironing, and at the edge we are going to put the same pipe at the edge. So I'm going to show you how to do that one. It is one of the most trickiest. Also this one, after we trim it, we are going to just fold this and just make a stitch at that side, because it's not going to be obvious, it's going to be inside. But first, let's do the weaving of the neck round and give it a good ironing. So here I'm going to cut out an extra 2 inches outside here. I realized that after joining, it will be longer, the overlap will be longer than the bodice itself. So it doesn't have to overlap the bodice, you just have to end at the joining of the bodice. So I'll be cutting out 2 inches here before I will do my turn up. So I want you guys to pay attention to this. If you cut it out with a pattern, you would have already cut out that 2 inches, and you're going to like cut out your neck, the 1.5 you cut out from the neck. So the next thing you're going to do now is just to measure the length. You can see. So after you measure the length, that's what we're going to use to cut out our pipe. You're going to see what I'm about to do here. So I'm going to just cut out the exact measurement. And this is the wrong side. I'm just going to mark it and add an interfacing to the face of the black. On that previous black that we did before, you remember we did not add an interfacing. The black we used to turn it, we did not add an interfacing. So the reason why we are adding an interfacing to this one is to make sure it makes it solid when we are turning it over. That's why we are adding an interfacing to that side. So there won't be difference between the pipe and this one also. So the next thing we're going to cut now is just going to be that knot, that rope that we're going to use to tie the side. So I'm just going to cut out a very just straight fabric. I'm going to cut out 1.5 and I'm going to turn it like a trouser rope. Let me use that word, just like a trouser rope. So I'm just going to cut one and cut it out into two. It's going to be a very long one. So I'm going to measure it and show you the length so that I can just so this is what I'll be using. The length of this, each of them is going to be 13 inches. So after sewing it, I'm going to cut it into two. Okay, so after stitching it, we are going to have this length. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut it into two. You can see that. So one will be on the overlap and the other one will be on the waist side. So right here, I want you guys to pay attention to what I'm about to do here. It is very, very important. Right here on the bodice, you can see. So this is what I'm going to do here. As you can see, I want you to pay attention. I'm just going to make a turn up at that side before I join it to the bodice. You can see. And I'm going to input that rope in between it before turning it. You can see, let's make a turn up at that edge and put the black in between it. This side is very important for you guys, so that you have to pay attention to see what I'm doing. You can see that one is what is going to like cover the stitches. That's going to cover the edge of the fabric. So I'm going to stitch it from that side. You can see. You can see. I'm just going to stitch it down straight. You can see that. So after stitching it out straight, you can see what we have. Let me zoom in closer so that you guys can see what I just did here. You see? So we just have to turn this inside. You can see that. All you just have to do is just to take out your pipe, the little pipe that you want to, exact same measurements right there. You can see that measurements there is what you're going to like push outside on this pipe also. You can see that. You can see it starts to be very straight. So we're going to take this to the ironing table now to balance it up. So this is what the side is going to look like. You see, we have our rope that will be used to tie it. So just turn whatever you want to turn inside. Make sure you're turning exactly the same pipe. That same measurement you have there is what you're going to like turn. You're going to do it straight down to the down part. So after you turn it, after you're done turning it, all you just have to do is just to make sure you use your iron to balance it up. And the next thing you're going to do is just to turn the edge from the inside. From the inside, you can see what I'm doing. You're going to turn this edge, and you're going to use an Emi gum to like hold it down and iron it very well. Either you want to stitch it or you want to put an Emi gum. Either way, on the video of that, on that picture, they actually use an invisible stitch to hold it down. You can see if you look at the picture closely. But on this one, I'm using an Emi gum. So I believe you guys can see. So this is what that side is going to look like after sewing it. You can see what we have so far. It's simple. So at the other side, which is the inner overlap, so I just stitched that one straight, just straight. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to apply my sleeve. On this one, depending on the sleeve that you want, on this one I cut a short sleeve, but on the picture it was a 3/4. And if you want to use a long sleeve, it's just your choice. Just go for any sleeve you want. So I'm just going to join the sleeve. So after joining the sleeve, this is what we're going to have. We're going to give it ironing. It's still rough. So the next thing we're going to do is to close the side. So right at that edge where you can see that chalk, I already mark out where the waist is going to be and where the rope is going to be applied. You can see. So I mark it from the inside also, so when I'm stitching it, I can know where I will be applying the rope. So the next thing I'm going to do is to turn it to the inside. You can see, join it to the inside. So depending on the measurement that you took, we have 2 inches extra for our inseam allowance, right? So I'll be joining 2 inches for the inseam allowance. So for the arm circumference on this one, you're just going to use your same arm circumference. Depending on what your arm circumference is, that's what you're going to use. So on this one I'll be using 13. And down straight I'll be taking 2 inches as what we actually did before. So when I chalk out 2 inches, that's what I'll be stitching straight down. So you're just going to stitch out down your 2 inches. So at that particular point in which we marked before, you can see that chalk right there. That's where I'll be putting my rope. Just place it inside. Make sure it is straight. You're going to stitch it down. Down straight up. You can see. You can see what we have. So when you turn it to the inside, this is what our waist is going to look like. So when you turn it to the front, you can see that our waist and our overlap are already side by side. So I'm just going to knot that side. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the other side also. Just turn it inside. So after joining the other side also, turning it to the front, this is what our wrap top is going to look like. You see? So the next thing you have to do is just to join the hem. Just fold it with your hemming gum. So this is what it's going to look like. You can see what we have so far. All you have to do is just to join your hemming gum, join the hem, and fold it. So that's about it on this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you like it, give it a thumb up. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And I will see you guys to my next video. Peace. And do enjoy yourself. God bless you.